Okay, now we come to the next part of hire purchase. Alright, so hire purchase, basically you have to remember the scope. Ya, sama juga. Bila you jawab satu soalan, kena tahu apa scope dia. Okay, so you must have in mind, this is the chapter on hire purchase. Now, is the question regarding formation? Is the question regarding statutory rights? Or is the question regarding implied conditional warranty? Is the question regarding misrepresentation by the owner or the dealer? Or is the question regarding repossession? So be clear. You must know the whole chapter. That's why I say you have to read the whole chapter, because you've got to know which scope is relevant to the question, all right, and identify the issue correctly. So your answer will be focused. If the question is on formation, it will usually not mix up with other subtopics. Statutory rights ni dia ada peluang campur dengan repossession. Kenapa? Because when repossession is carried out, either before or after repossession is carried out, the hirer can still exercise some statutory rights. For example, if repossession was carried out and repossession is carried out because the hirer did not pay the monthly installments. Let's say he forgot to pay 2 months installment, successive installment. So the car was repossessed, right? But let's say the hirer actually, it's not that he didn't pay because he didn't have money. Let's say he forgot. So actually he's got a lot of money and he wants to finish off payment all of the installments. So he can exercise the right to early completion. Right? He can exercise the right to early completion. Let's say in the question it says that he wants to exercise the right to early completion. So that will be a sub-issue. So the main issue will be repossession, the sub-issue will be statutory rights. And sometimes statutory rights in one question, there can be more than one statutory rights exercise. Let's say if the question says the hirer is not sure whether he can do this or he can do that. So it could be more than one statutory rights. Alright, so be clear on the scope of the question and identify the issue correctly. Let's have a look at this question. Alright, now here she wanted to buy 3 items. Ni kena ingat, ni belum ada hire purchase agreement lagi. Kalau soalan tu mula-mula tak sebut lagi hire purchase agreement dah sign, maknanya dia belum buat lagi. So here could be on formation. Most likely it is on formation. She wanted to buy apa semua, ada 3 items. Alright, and then she was advised to sign, baru nak sign hire purchase agreement. So memang formation lah ni. Alright, and the agreement did not state the duration of hire purchase, the amount. Ni ini you have to know what are the requirements for hire purchase. Alright, formation of hire purchase agreement. There are 9 requirements to be fulfilled, so you have to know what are they. So you've got to be clear what are the requirements that the owner did not comply, because this is the owner's obligation. It is the owner's duty to comply with the procedures for formation of hire purchase agreement. And then she was asked to pay a deposit of 30%. Boleh ke? Alright, before that, assured her that the details will be filled in later. Maknanya agreement tu tak lengkap. Boleh ke dia sign? Okay, deposit 30%. Deposit patutnya berapa? 10% je. Alright. And later she changed her mind. Okay, she's not sure. Alright, and she didn't want to go on with it. Okay, now is the agreement binding or not? When you're answering a question problem question on formation, now you read the question and check. Did the owner follow all the requirements for the formation of hire purchase agreement under the Hire Purchase Act? Alright, so you must know all the requirements. If you don't know the requirements, then how can you check whether the owner has complied with the requirements or not? And look at the clues in the question. Macam saya highlightkan tadi. Mana yang dia tak comply. So the only way that you can fish out what are the requirements that they did not comply, the owner did not comply, is when you know all the requirements. Okay, and what is the effect of non-compliance of the requirements? Does it cause the hire purchase agreement to be void? Okay, so you must know the effect of the non-compliances. Okay, so this is the content of your answer for the question on formation. As I said just now, I prefer students to write in one sentence, but it's up to you to follow whatever your lecturer prefers. But what is important is that it must mention, your issue must have the at least the keyword of formation of hire purchase agreement. Okay, so whether owner fulfill the requirements for the formation of hire purchase agreement, because basically it is the owner's responsibility to fulfill the requirements. The only duty of the hirer in respect of formation of hire purchase agreement is he has to pay the booking fee and the deposit. Okay, now for the explanation of the law, you must define what is hire purchase agreement. Alright, section 2 clause 1 of the Hire Purchase Act. Alright, okay, and then you have to explain the all the requirements to be fulfilled. Alright, all the 9 requirements to be fulfilled for a formation for the hire purchase agreement to be created validly, and what are the effects of non-compliances. What happens if the owner does not give the second schedule notice? What happens if the owner does not prepare an agreement which is in writing and signed by the hirer, right? And then you must apply the law. So this is where you're supposed to relate to the question, use the sections that you have already explained earlier, and show what are the requirements that the owner did not comply. Then you come to your conclusion whether or not the hire purchase agreement is valid. Yeah, and if there are any actions that can be taken, what actions are they? Okay. Moving on to another subtopic that that students may be tested on for final exam is statutory rights. Okay, so this is an example of past year questions. All right, so it says here that Leong has got a hire purchase agreement. Yeah, he's got a van which is under hire purchase. So maknanya dah ada dah. Agreement tu dah buat. So bukan pasal formation lah ni. Okay, kalau you tengok dalam soalan tu kadang-kadang dia tak sebut apa perkataan formation, dia tak sebut apa perkataan statutory rights, but you must know how to pick up from the question whether this question is regarding what scope. Okay, now then he could not afford to pay the installments, alright, but his friend is willing to take over paying the installments, alright. Alternatively, he is also willing to buy the van in cash. Dia nak take over paying the installment, that is right to assign. And the hirer can assign, of course with the consent of the owner. Okay, barulah boleh the assignee can take over paying the monthly installments, and thereafter he will get the ownership of the hire purchase goods after he has finished paying all the monthly installments. Okay, now he is also willing to buy the van in cash. Now he wants to know how many installments are left. Tapi Leong is uncertain. The hirer is Leong. Now he's not certain as to how many installments are left to be paid under the hire purchase agreement. So this is where you can exercise section 9 and the right to apply for a copy of the statement, a statement on his financial, on the hirer's financial position. Yeah, because it's not every month, when you pay your installments, when you buy a car under hire purchase, you pay installments every month. You don't get a statement from the bank saying, oh, okay, you have already paid for 10 months, contohnya. Okay, the next you still have another 70 months to go. Tak ada, dia tak ada bagi statement macam tu. Tak ada tiap-tiap bulan bank nak bagi statement, tak ada masa bank nak bagi statement tiap-tiap bulan bagi tahu setakat mana. So the hirer, if he's unsure how many months he has already paid, how many is due, how many is still remaining under the hire purchase agreement, this is where he can exercise section 9 to apply for a statement on his financial position. So these 3 rights, okay, these are the 3 rights. Tak ada pun disebut statutory rights kat sini. Memang dia kata relevant statutory provision, tapi statutory provision ni bermaksud section mana. Okay, alright. Now, how do you answer this question? So when you read the question, check which statutory right is suitable. So macam saya buat tadi tu, saya dah tunjuk, oh kalau ini you kena tahu boleh exercise ni. So you must know all the statutory rights to know which would be relevant. Kalau dia nak shorten the duration, itu right to early completion. Kalau dia nak, for example, katalah hirer mati, hirer meninggal, family members dia nak take over, itu right by operation of the law. Okay, so you must know what are the relevant statutory rights for the question. Look at the clues. Tu yang saya kata tadi, kena baca soalan tu betul-betul, tahu yang mana satu yang relevant. Okay, are there more than one statutory rights that the hirer can exercise? Some students dia tak nampak kat dalam soalan tu 3. Masa soalan ni keluar masa exam, ada yang dapat 2, ada yang dapat 1 je. Alright, ada juga student yang bagus yang dia dapat 3 sekali. Okay, so you must be clear. Alright, and what must the hirer do to exercise the statutory rights? Because some of the statutory rights requires the hirer to do certain things. Get the consent of the owner. You have to apply in writing perhaps. You have to do certain things perhaps. Alright, so what must the hirer do? You've got to explain all that, yeah? Okay, so this is the content of your answer. Now, since there are 3 statutory rights, now normally I will ask the students to list down if there are more than one issues or more than one statutory rights, I will ask the students to list them down. So this is how, one of the ways that you can do it, yeah. Issue in this question is whether the hirer can exercise the right to assign, the right to terminate, the right to get a copy of the financial statement. Alright, so in the explanation of the law, alright, you've got to of course start with the definition of hire purchase, alright, and then you explain that in hire purchase act the hirer is given certain statutory rights, and of course you explain the relevant statutory rights only, and what must be done by the hirer in order for him to exercise these rights, and what happens if the owner does not comply with his duty to let the hirer exercise these rights, And in your application, use the section, relate it to the facts of the question and what the hirer should do in this question in order to exercise which statutory rights. And then you conclude what actions can be done. Okay? So that is on statutory rights. Okay? Now, the next subtopic that is also a favorite is repossession. Okay? Now, let's have a look at this question. Now, let's say this question comes out. Again, you must be able to pick out from the question on the relevant points to answer satisfactorily on this. For example, ni kat sini dia kata he has been paying the installments diligently, alright, and suddenly, okay, mana ni cerita banyak cerita tiba-tiba, alright, December dia tak bayar. He forgot to pay the installment for December. Tapi January dah dapat for schedule notice. Cukup ke? Okay, cukup ke default? 1 bulan default je. Alright? And then the owner says that you must pay within 14 days. 14 days? Bukan 21 days ke? Alright? And then they came and they towed the car from the parking lot while he was at the market. Dia tak sedar pun. Betul ke prosedur ni? Is it lawful? Agent or the owner kenalah tunjukkan bukti. Alright, kena tunjukkan surat kuasa yang dia memang berhak untuk menarik balik, untuk repossess the car. Alright? Orang tu tak ada, boleh ke main tarik aja? Ikut ke tidak section 16 clause 3, and then Tan is upset and wants to know what he can do as he wants the car back. He is also prepared to pay all the debts since he does not want to be tied up. You see, he is thinking of completing it earlier. Ni yang saya kata tadi, dia boleh campur. Main issue ialah repossession, sub issue-nya adalah statutory rights, early completion. Okay, so this is where sikit je lah tentang early completion ni, sebab dia nak instead of continuing with the hire purchase period, hire purchase installments, he wants to complete it earlier. Okay, but the main thing is repossession. But is the procedures correct? Okay, alright. Now, moving on. So when you're answering question on repossession, check. Did the owner follow all the procedures for repossession? Ikut tak semua procedures for repossession? Look at the clues in the question to see which procedure that the owner failed to comply. And what is the effect of non-compliances of the procedures? Ni saya nak pesan. Kalau dia tak follow procedures for repossession, bukannya agreement of hire purchase tu yang void. Some students dia silap, dia kata tak ikut, therefore agreement is void. Bukan, dia tak ada effect pada agreement. Tapi prosedur repossession tu yang tak sah. Bila prosedur repossession tu tak sah, kalau hirer has sustained any losses, then the hirer will be able to claim for those losses, and the owner will have to return the car baliklah sebab tak cukup 2 bulan default kan. Okay, so this is the content of your answer, whether the owner complied with the procedures for repossession. Kalau misalnya macam tadi ada sub issue, boleh tambah sikit lah. And whether the hirer can exercise early completion. Alright, the right to early completion. Alright, now for explanation of the law, explain the definition of hire purchase. Nature of hire purchase agreement is that the ownership is not transferred to the hirer during the hire purchase period. Hirer only gets possession. Ownership is still remaining with the owner. That is why the hirer must pay the installment without fail. If he doesn't pay, then the owner will repossess. Ni leads up to the procedures for repossession. So kenapa repossession dibuat? Sebab duty of hirer is to pay installment. Kalau dia tak bayar, then there is a default on the hirer, so the owner can repossess because barang tu adalah milik owner. Then you explain the procedures for repossession, the 5 procedures for repossession, and what happens if the owner does not comply, support with sections and cases. And in the application, show which procedures were not complied by the owner. What did the owner do? What is supposed to be the procedure? Alright, and then you come to your conclusion and say whether the non-compliance of the procedures, what effect does it have on the whole process of repossession and what actions can be done. Okay, so that is on repossession.